Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Life, Real Kitchen podcast. And I would like to introduce my guest today is Katherine Hale. Katherine Hale is CEO and founder of Thrive in Motherhood. She supports driven, high-achieving career women in early motherhood to achieve career success without sacrificing time with their family or their health. She also works with organizations to strengthen their leadership pipelines, reduce attrition rates, and enhance retention by helping them focus on the well-being of female talent. So, Katherine and I, we've actually known each other for a few years.
That's something.
30 odd years. So it has been a delight and a privilege to be a part of Katherine's life and see the changes in her careers and her arrival into motherhood. Now, because this is also Real Life, Real Kitchen, I have a real child who is joining us, just to keep it quite literally real. Catherine, I'd like to just start off with, so you are a matrescence coach is your specific role, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you tell me, how did you come to this? Because your background, when I knew you younger, was in the army, in the Royal Signals. How have you gone from that
To working with solely women.
Yes. How has this happened? Let's talk a bit about your background and how you've got to thrive in motherhood.
Okay. So I have always wanted to run my own business, and I have always had a passion for personal development and training, and supporting people, generally women and men, reach their full potential. And I certainly got that through my army days, the personal development, leadership, influence, all of that stuff. And I then went into corporate and developed that further. And the coaching element of everything I did through my corporate life as a transformation consultant led me to realize that that business had to be coaching, personal development. On the birth of my second child, I learned about the book Matrescence. I learned about the word rather, Matrescence. I was recommended a book, and that book was life-changing. And I read it twice. I admit I didn't like it the first time. I was like, what's it going on about? And I read it again, and it was so life-changing in how I looked at my career, looked at motherhood, looked at what women needed in terms of support, specifically women in corporate who were approaching going up the leadership ladder, many of whom I was working with in senior leadership, and what they needed to benefit them both at home and at work. And it was a lack of understanding around matrescence that really got me into this. And I decided then that I would certify as a matrescence coach, having already been certified as a coach for 15 years previously, and to therefore develop this idea and spread the word around matrescence. And that's how it started.
So could you please, okay, well, number one, I will put the link to the book underneath in the show notes. Number two, could you please define what is matrescence?
Yeah. Matrescence is the transition from womanhood to motherhood. And it is all about the psychological, the social, the economic, the physical, the biological changes that we as women go through on birth. It doesn't have to, the changes don't necessarily happen at the point of giving birth. It happens throughout your motherhood journey. So we change as women quite significantly as a result of having children. And that change is as big as adolescence, believe it or not. But word matrescence has not got traction. I believe over the next 5 years, it will become talked about like the menopause is now. And it is a life change like that obviously 83%, 87% of women go through when they have children.
Yeah. So I suppose it's a concept that really until about 70 odd years ago, when more and more women started to go into the workforce, it was just a kind of an understood thing that, of course, you get married, you have children, this is a huge change. So there was an unspoken, with a lot of kind of women's work, women's roles, there was an unspoken acknowledgement that, of course, this is a huge change. But then with that shift with women going into the workforce, there was a sort of muddying of the waters. Would that be kind of a fair thought on that?
Yeah, so the word itself only entered it was only defined in
Yeah,
1973, so it's a very, very recent
yeah.
word, possibly linked to the social changes that women were going through, yeah, with more and more women, as you say, going into the workplace. Interestingly, the word has only actually entered the English dictionary in the year 2020.
Wow. Okay.
Such a new
Yeah,
word. I think the fact that women are now juggling some quite serious big careers, and having children later, and the social pressures that women can do as well as men in the workplace, combined with that transition into motherhood, does make it a bit more challenging for
yeah,
women. Yes.
yep, yep, yes. So, and I suppose matrescence, just coming back to 1973, that's when you have your whole kind of academic discipline of feminism and things like that, and it would have been in the academic intellectual spheres being bandied about. But those sorts of things take time to come down. So, no, okay, it's so interesting. I'm gonna mull on that for a little bit. With the corporate mums, because I am working with mums who are not necessarily as high powered and as high leveled as yours, but they'll be juggling work, maybe part-time work, they've got school run, they got all of just the life, the responsibilities, a lot of these external pressures coming in and coming onto family life that they have to try their best to bat off or incorporate. What
Mhm.
are the special stresses for your corporate mums? What is it? What's the kind of the extra that they have?
So I think firstly, it's probably a feeling of confusion and feeling torn, a career and motherhood. So the majority of women, because of where I'm working with them in terms of their seniority, they have probably spent 20 years in their career to date, graduating. So they're 40, around the 40 mark. Um, Therefore, they have had their whole identity revolved around work and their career up to the point of motherhood. And suddenly you throw in motherhood and perspectives change, you values change, everything changes. And therefore they get a feeling of feeling really torn between who they were pre-children and who they are post-children. So there is a worry around career clarity. There is confusion about next steps. They're worrying who they are now because they have changed so significantly. So there's that element, which I think perhaps where people are working and they have a paid role versus motherhood, their identity isn't wrapped in that paid role. Whereas a career who is climbing corporate ladder will probably put more emphasis in terms of that career space. Um, the second thing that I think is perhaps a bigger difference is the rate of burnout. So these women, are generally breadwinners. They're often breadwinners in their family. They are juggling the responsibilities, of leadership at work. They're doing the juggle that every mum does at home. They're also financially, perhaps, being the security blanket for their families. Therefore, role and career is obviously been up there is fundamentally important for financial reasons. So they will go, 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 push, push, push all the time at everything they're doing. And therefore, then, that's when the burnout.
Yeah, yeah, because is there? I- I'm I'm going to presume there's a temperamental element to it. It's quite a sort of driven, focused, academically very successful, very good at reaching the goals. There's that sort of a, I don't, do I want to say perfectionist? Yeah,
Yes, there is a perfectionist, and a lot of people I work with, would be on that perfectionist
yeah,
scale.
yeah.
And as you and I both know, when you become mums, you can't be perfect because what is perfect? We are out of control so much as mums. And I think that is also the challenge where these women are um, very like being in control. They generally get what they want because they'll fight for it. Um, and then suddenly motherhood throws that control element, the judgment, the comparison that mums, you can be very critical of each other. All of that comes into play, which they're not used to. But, and again, that is probably the third stressor that these women are going
And
through.
I suppose as well with motherhood, when you have a baby, there is a presumption before you have your first one, this is completely natural. I'll just be able
Mhm.
to pick it up, just like breastfeeding, all of that. And there is this learning curve, which is beyond anything. It's
Mhm.
like, "Whoa, I wasn't expecting that." And so when you are already quite kind of vulnerable physically, you just had a baby,
Mm,
hormones, just everything. There is so much you have to learn on top of that. And when you are used to, I'm going to learn, I've got a problem to fix. I'm going to learn how to do it. You
mhm.
might read the books, but then you have a child whose temperament just goes, no, no. You
Yeah,
see those books? You see me? No, we
yeah,
are not connected.
absolutely.
It-
But that's part of the issue though there is that society makes out that giving birth's easy, motherhood's easy, breastfeeding is easy, and none of it
yeah,
is.
it's
Uh,
culture.
so
It needs to be learned. And if you've not
yes,
seen it, if you
yeah,
haven't seen it and you haven't been surrounded by other families, well, yeah, how?
feel lost, you feel isolated. So many people I
Yeah,
speak to feel that in this space because as you say, they haven't experienced it and they're not seeing people go through it. People don't open up about these conversations. Everyone says, "Yes, how's your day?" "Oh, I'm doing fine." Yeah, but realistically, a lot of women are struggling
yeah,
and
yeah,
don't like it that we need support or we're vulnerable or it's a sign of weakness.
yeah. And especially if you have been in a position that has been one of strength and big leadership, all of a sudden say, "Whoa, this is hard, and actually I am lonely."
Mm,
This was a topic I was talking to a lady, Vanessa Coultas, who's a parenting coach. It's one of my earlier videos, all about loneliness. And one of the big challenges of motherhood is when you're at work. Okay, so my theory, you ready, Catherine? You've heard some of my theories. Here we go. Here's one. Um, but women, we do well. We're about community. We're about kind of sitting in circles and having a chat and doing the knitting and, cooking, and there's a baby. Men generally are like next to each other. We're hunting a saber-toothed tiger. We are focused on the saber-toothed
mm,
tiger. That's my generalization brush. I know there's a spectrum, but anyway, we do community. And what happens is at work, that is our community. But the
yes.
thing is, when you are a mother and you're at home with the baby, your community is 9 till 5. They're still at work.
Hmm.
And you have to
Yeah.
create a new community from scratch, often because you're usually not living close to family. You have to create that from scratch. You've got to get out there when you're feeling low and not great and find your people. It's so hard. It's is it a pressure? I mean, I do think it's a necessity,
Yeah.
but there's an extra thing that I think if women were aware of, maybe you take maternity leave 2 months, 3 months before you have the baby so you have time to make the community. I don't know. I don't know, but I think that's a huge, we don't realize how invested we are in our community at work, and then that stops, and
Hmm.
then you're going crackers at home with this lovely baby because you're on your own.
Yeah. We definitely, as women, need a tribe. Our tribe. I think when you go back to work, the challenges happen when you have to merge those communities. So who you were in your community at home on mat leave and who you are in your work capacity. Fundamentally, we should be the same person, but deep down, everyone puts on personas at work, and people don't want to bring that home community, who they are, baby experience to work uh, because on paper, sad as it is, but mothers are disadvantaged in so many ways, and therefore, yes, the community at work then perhaps doesn't work when these women go back, and that again leads to loneliness. So I feel there is lack of female role models. I look at the women that I aspired, to be, when I was in corporate. There was only one mother, out of the four women that I was sort of working towards and highly respecting and stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, they're making choices that are very different to me. So there is serious lack of role models for women who want to mix career and
Yeah.
motherhood
Yeah,
successfully.
yeah. It is interesting, the changes in role models. I was talking to actually it's a mutual friend of ours. I'll leave you to guess. And we were talking about women we think are awesome. And we were actually saying
Mm.
about the same thing. And we both agreed that we think Anne Widdecombe is just amazing. And we want to be Anne Widdecombe when we grow up. I know she doesn't have children, but she is so ballsy, doesn't care, just
Yeah,
cracks on. But
yeah,
she's postmenopausal. So she's like, I have nothing to prove here. I don't care what
yeah,
you think, young man. And I've been
yeah.
listening to some podcasts with her recently, and it's so funny. These younger chaps are interviewing her in their 30s and 40s. They think she's marvelous. They're just like, oh, you're great, Anne. So yes, in terms of role models, mine shifted completely. I'm like, yeah, I'm aiming to be Anne Widdecombe one day, but with like more children. But so that must be really interesting talking to your clients about that, helping them see different options. So can you talk me through that kind of piece of the puzzle?
So I work with clients in a number of ways, but I think the career clarity piece is something that is comes up time and time again. And so fundamentally, as you may well know, but lots of women struggle to reconnect with themselves, post children, and lots of people listening to this will be thinking, who am I, etc. And that throws lots of questions up, especially when you're thinking about your career. Helping women to have headspace, have a mentor who's been through this, providing a structured framework
Oh,
through some of the problems, think about emotions, think about what's really, really important to them and then what's holding them back. And we touched on it to start with, helping redefine what success is, because the mother is very different to your children version of success. These are all things that help women do to get that career clarity, to avoid that burnout, to find that better balance. Um, every woman is craving.
are you
Beth.
talking to women as well about, I mean, this is something that comes up so frequently, but talking to women about seasons of life? That there are
Mm.
seasons when you do need to step back a bit. I'm thinking, look, I've got a small, slightly spluttery child on my lap as we speak. So there are seasons of life you just kind of have to step back. We have also talked about the responsibilities of looking after parents who are not as young as they once were, and one has to step back.
Mm.
Um, do you talk to these ladies about that concept of seasons?
So interestingly, Zoe, I think the conversation about seasons of life I first learnt from you
No.
about 4 years. I think
Wow.
yes, and it's not a new, concept, but I'd never thought of life in that
Yeah.
way um, that I do now. Yes, people do realise, especially women going back after maternity leave. I had a client call this morning, and the season of life is, she needs to understand that, and accept rather that she can't do everything that she wanted to do pre-children. She needs to be able to delegate better, prioritize better. So a lot of this comes down to leadership advancement and improvement in a certain season of life, so that you can achieve what you want to career wise, but also be there and leave the office when you need to do said nursery pickup or whatever. So yes, I think people are slowly beginning to realize that seasons of life is really important to think about. And just it releases a little bit of the pressure that women are under when they look at it like that and think,
I think as
you know,
I think as women as well of our generation, kind of educated in the 80s, 90s, noughties, of joining this career ladder. So I remember when I was doing my postgraduate work and my PhD studies, I remember I had an academic, one of these old school ones with this is in art history, I had a knitted tie, a silk knitted tie, and he specialized in 13th century art of Rome. This kind of thing. Fabulous, fabulous. But he had a really blunt conversation with us in our third year at university. It's all girls doing art history. He said, girls,
Mhm.
girls, girls, just be aware, just be aware. If you go to art history or academia, at some point you will have babies. And there'll be some chap in the department who's not as good as you, but he'll write a book in the year that you're away and he will overtake you. And bear in mind as well that you're going to be doing your studies during your fertile years. He didn't use, I'm paraphrasing here. Your
Yeah.
fertile years, you're going to have, once you got your PhD, you then have to apply for postdocs and you've got to be traveling here and there and everywhere before you get a job. So just to be aware. I mean, I don't think you could get away with a conversation like that these days. At the time, it didn't land. It stuck, didn't land. But
Mm.
few years later, I was looking at those women who were trying to finish their PhDs with children or with babies, trying to get academic jobs. And it suddenly struck me that the career ladder, be it academia, be it the corporate, it is built around male biology.
Mm.
It's a straight line, which, of course, this is like hundreds, if not thousands of years in the making, maybe 2,000 years or 3,000 years of just going on because those responsibilities that take us to the side, so be it the babies, the old people, the looking after, cooking, cleaning, all of these basic things,
Mm.
they happen to the side, and others
Mm.
like us sitting in our little circle, spinning our yarn, the women will be doing that. And what has happened with career advice, education, we have that piece about seasons, flexibilities, the realities of being a woman. We have the privilege of fertility, but that means we've got to take time out.
Mm.
That has been ignored. And so we have forced ourselves without realizing it into this kind of corporate or career ladder, which is not fitting with our biology and
Mm.
and needs as women, mothers,
Mm.
not in society's interest either, really. Um,
I
what
agree that we forced ourselves into it. I think society has led us
No, I
to
agree.
it.
Sorry, that's quite correct. We have, we didn't realize. We didn't realize. Um, I mean, I'm a great coming back to Anne Widdecombe. I'm very much one for women coming back later into the workforce. One of the reasons I was invited you on rather than, well, I want you, but I invited you on, is I love the fact that with your coaching, you're encouraging these career pivots, but also suggesting to women to think about using their skills and talents to set up businesses that fit
Mm.
around their needs and their life. And I
Mm.
think that is such an important option for women to be aware of, that you can
Mm.
still have the work, you can still have the intellectual stimulation, because that's a big part of it as well. You can have control in certain elements of your life,
Yeah.
but you can make it more bespoke to your life and need. Dinner's burning, the washing's multiplying, and someone's crying. It could even be you. If your evenings feel like survival mode, the Command the Chaos Mum Life Management Planner is your first gentle step back to calm. It's a printable 80-page guide and planner to help you reset your routines and breathe again without needing to become someone else entirely. Start your reset today. The link's in the show notes.
Yeah. So I love supporting women on that career pivot journey. Not everyone I work with wants that. So I can give people tools and techniques to stay in their corporate roles and to step up and enhance their leadership and the way they operate rather than doing a shift. So you don't have to believe, I don't personally believe you have to do a shift. I think it requires a mindset change and having tools and techniques and strategies to make things work, in a full blown senior corporate role. So please, yeah, get that right. Yeah. I want everyone to take that away. From the career pivot side, I think a lot of women are nervous about it because it's the unknown. I talk about it all the time. You only learn from being taken out of your comfort zone. Setting out a business or whatever isn't for the faint-hearted. You have to put the effort in, and I think a lot of women question that especially when they're feeling vulnerable, they're suffering imposter syndrome, they're lacking confidence, they've got a baby, to look after. All of the things are going against them, and they think, oh, I'm not sure whether I want to do this career pivot or change roles because actually I'm in my safe space here. It might be working out great, but I'm in my safe space. I know everyone. I've got a job to do and I know what I can do.
That's your
Uh,
anchor in a time when everything else seems out of control.
Often, for a lot of these women, the work is an anchor because they can control that much more than, clearly, as we discussed, crying baby or, toddler running around being sick or whatever it might be. Um, yeah, sorry, I can't remember your question, but I guess, yeah, people need to think slightly differently in certain seasons of life. And if that involves a career pivot, it is not, I don't believe it's failure. I don't believe there's anything wrong with it. It's about being open minded and accepting that you've
Yeah.
changed,
Yeah.
you know, and looking back on what you really, really want. I had a really deep down look, and I was like, when I married my husband, and had my children, there were two things in life I wanted to do. One was run my own business, and one is to redevelop another property, which I've done two already, and I'd love to do. Those are my goals. Those are my life goals, not to earn X salary and on X bonus, because that feels good, And I think that's where people need to perhaps deeply reflect and think about, reconnect with what actually they really, really
Yeah.
want.
Yeah. And a big part of that is having the space to making the space to kind of step to the side and say, right, what is it I want? Having that peace, finding that peace. Um,
And make it better, because we don't have time to think as mums. And I think sometimes without accountability and guidance from someone external, um, you get locked in your autopilot. You're on a hamster wheel. You can't get off, because you're not investing in yourself. Very easily done, and I have those sort of conversations with people all the time. It's like, well, no, actually, you need to get off that hamster wheel because you've got to have time to think about what you want. You are a human here. You brought other little humans into this world, but you're still a priority, and you have to have your cup half full. You have to be motivated, fulfilled, empowered, to be the best mum you can be, because otherwise, your motherhood journey will fail. You won't be as good a mum as you want to be because you don't feel good
yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, a big part of that, creating that space, having the reflection. Okay, two things. Number one, you are like the village elder, the wise woman who would have been sitting in the circle saying, "Oh, Margaret, you're struggling, aren't you? Let's have a chat. You tell me." Do you see what I mean? But those kind of coming back to role models, that community, women don't have the sort of the older ones, unless they go, not even the older ones, the ones who are like a couple of steps ahead.
yeah,
We unless you go seeking for them and go, surely this has happened to someone else before. I can't be the only one.
completely.
Unless you go seeking for that, I think this is one of the things that I find so interesting. There are so many women who go, "Oh, I must be the only one." And you go, hang on, statistically, how many billions of women have there been born? Just probably like at least one. At least one.
Completely.
Yeah,
Completely.
yeah,
But as I said before, these are conversations that you don't discuss on a basis. You don't really discuss these either with your mum or your closest girlfriend. And therefore, being able to talk these through and see that you're not alone, uh, is so empowering. Uh, I work predominantly in groups, and my tribe or
yeah.
my community or the Delta, I call it, but I do work in groups and I love it. And women come to those groups and feel inspired by what they hear and seeing the wins of other women in those groups, but also hearing their challenges and learning from how they're adapting to those challenges and what they can learn from them and put them into practice themselves is a really, really fulfilling and motivating for so many
It's
women.
huge. It's huge. I used to
Mm.
go to with my first. I went to a mothers group up in Stoke Newington, up in northeast London. It's run by a lady called Naomi Stadlen, and she wrote a book called What Mothers Do. She was a psychoanalyst, and this was based. Did you?
You shared that book with me on the birth
Oh
of
my
my first
gosh,
child.
that book!
I have it sitting in the nursery of my daughter
It's
now.
beautiful. It's beautiful. She died recently. Bless her. She was in her 80s, and I mean, oh, but the way the groups used to run. Everybody would sit down, we'd be there. She'd deal with kind of mums with babies up to age 1, and we'd all sit there kind of, very squelchy and slightly fragile with our cups of tea and biscuits. And she'd literally go around and say, "Hello, everybody. How are you?" Read something about motherhood from the newspaper and say, "So, tell us your name, age of your baby and your baby's name. How was your week?" And that was
Mm.
it. And everybody went round, and it would be, one mum saying, "Oh, my baby rolled over." And everyone's like, "Yay." And then another mum who'd be like, "I'm really struggling. My husband's left me." And we go, "Oh." And it was this range. But because it's saying it out loud, and all of a sudden everything got lighter. But no, but
Mm.
that was everything from the triumphs, "My baby rolled over," or "My baby ate broccoli, hooray." I've got one of those
Always the way.
babies, to, the absolute disasters. It was and everything in between. It was just saying it is so important, and to be heard by other women. Really powerful, really, really important.
I get that feedback. Run regular masterclasses once a month for women who are new to my world, and I get that feedback all the time. Being heard in a group of 50, 100 people on a call, is a very, very,
Yeah.
yeah.
Massive. I mean, the thought strikes me. I mean, that's almost something, I don't know, up in the city in the corporate world, that you have these
Mm,
groups. You could maybe set up
mm.
actual in-person
The,
groups.
a lot of these, a lot of women's groups obviously exist. I think it's
The money,
it's making
the money.
awareness, the mummy side, yeah, is more and more. I think parenting groups. I think there is a trend now. I say trend, but I think a lot of corporates are starting parenting groups, not really going down to the mummy specific, but targeting and supporting parents in a slightly
Yeah,
different way,
yeah,
which is all good. It's movement in the right direction, but we've still got a long way to
yeah.
go, I think.
Few things to do. Now, coming back to the women stepping out, having a bit of space to reflect. Please. Boundaries, Catherine.
Comes up all
We're
the time.
so crap at them.
No women I've met can say no easily. Everyone says yes to
Yeah,
everything. And that comes back to the people pleasing, the wanting to add value, wanting to make an impact, the imposter syndrome because we don't feel we're worthy. All of those things are emotions that women feel, certainly, even if they haven't pre-motherhood, they will feel it at some point in early motherhood. And therefore they can't set those boundaries. Even with their partner, they they struggle to do
yeah,
it.
yeah. Why
Uh,
is it, how is it that men, is it again the saber-tooth tiger focus? No, I'm looking at a saber-tooth tiger. This is happening now. And there's no kind of, I don't know.
yeah. And I think I've reflected a lot on this, obviously, but I think women have got constant things on their mind. Switching off for every woman, I think, is quite difficult once you've got children. Um, and men, I think, have a capacity to be able to do that easier, and they're more defined in their responsibilities, and they know that this is what I'm responsible for, and that everything else is parked. And I think until and it is changing because it's significantly changed since we were kids and our dads and stuff. But I think until fathers do recognise more the unseen work women do, because it is unseen, the buying the birthday cards, the replying to invitations, the food shopping, organising a delivery, the organising a cleaner if you were lucky enough to have, all of that is done generally by the female in the household. And I think men need to be much more aware of what women do to get that balance back. And there's an amazing book called Fair
Fair
Game.
game. Okay.
Game, well, a game that discusses all this. It's about the book's written by Eve Rodisky, I think, and it's all around the motherhood load that we shared
Yeah.
better with us.
Do you think that a part of it as well is women, again, coming back to our needs and setting boundaries, is actually saying to these beloveds, this is what I need. This is, quite clear. 10 o'clock, you're taking little Sally to her ballet class on a Saturday so that I can have an hour's peace because I need this. Otherwise, I go crackers. You do not have to understand. You just have to
Yes.
accept. Is a part of it kind of women not actually being explicit.
Yes.
This,
It's hard to confront. It's hard to ask for time for you. That's what it comes down to, and investing in your well-being. And we deprioritize ourselves all the time. We're often at the bottom of our to-do list. I was talking to another client this morning about this. She says, I want to invest in half an hour myself reading personal development every day, but it falls to the bottom, and by 10 o'clock at night, I'm too knackered to do it, and therefore I don't do it. And it's like, yes, it's having those conversations with your partner to be able to say, I need this time. This is for my sanity, it's for my well-being, it's to fill my cup up, it's to make me a better mum. And utilising that time effectively, and your partner supporting. I'm really rigid, for example, about exercise with my partner, husband. Whenever he does school drop off, I will always exercise. And I will specifically say that's the benefit I get if you want me to exercise. And luckily he's very supportive of that, as probably most men would be. But that's a win-win for both of us. He gets a bit of time with the children, which is not in the working day. And also I get a bit of exercise time, in the morning before work.
And it's also important for the relationship between husband and wife,
Because then you're equal, because you're getting the time, and he automatically assumes, I think, a lot of men, that they can have time, and they don't think anything of asking for 2 weeks to go skiing with work, which my husband's doing now. Would I ask for 2 weeks to go skiing on my own? No, I'm lucky if I get 2 nights away kid-free, let alone 2 weeks skiing.
But could I
yeah.
also just point out with that as well, that there is the reality, the little ones, they need the mums more than the dads. I think that is certainly when they're
Very
yeah.
young ones, yes. But I think that does, post of the obvious, breastfeeding thing. My view is fathers can do everything that mothers can do, with the exception of breastfeeding. So I think I have a slightly different view on that.
We shall love each other and agree to differ. Okay, so boundaries, yes. And coming back to once you've got those boundaries in place, saying what you need means a better relationship between you and your husband, because otherwise you have resentment. Coming back to the fact that men, I'm looking at the saber-tooth tiger, what cleaning lady? Whereas you're thinking about the cleaning lady and all of the things, there's going to reach this point where you go, why can't you read my mind? Why
Yeah.
can't you read my mind? And
Yeah.
nobody can.
No, they can't. And that resentment, that frustration, I see it all the time. And it does, if it builds up and builds up, it can lead to, obviously, serious challenges. And, I think fair dues, I certainly had a bit of resentment in the very early days of motherhood. And I was like, my husband's life hasn't really changed. Mine has changed beyond all recognition. But that was from a work capacity. I think, as you go through your motherhood journey, as we come back to it, it's more about, having time for yourself, and recognizing the importance of that, and not letting, your partner, get everything that he needs, but you put your needs at the bottom, because can't go on like that. You will burn out. We'll burn out if we don't have something for
Yeah,
ourselves.
really important. Yeah, it's huge. And even if everybody from kind of the stay-at-home mums up to the corporate, we just need that little bit of time to step back, because you can't see the wood for the trees. And then when you return to the children, when you return to the house, and really important, ideally, for this to happen outside the home, because if you're in the home, you're like, oh, I'm going to have an hour. And you look around, you're like, oh, the washing, oh, the school admin, all of this. No, you just go and have
Yeah.
that space.
But I completely agree with that. I also think, though, it doesn't have to be an hour a big deal here. This can sometimes be really, really small, simple things. My husband loves the radio on in our kitchen, and when we're in there as a family, he'll have it on, and I turn it off as soon as I can, especially when we're as a family, because I just cannot get the sensory overload. I never experienced this before motherhood. But now I'm like, I've got 3 children running around wanting this, that, and the other, and the radio playing, and my husband popping in and out, and I'm cooking dinner. I cannot cope with that. So I think there is an understanding of each other's needs on that small micro level, i.e., turning the radio off, and my husband respecting that as soon as he walks out the room, I'm going to turn it off because I don't want it on. Or you just 15 minutes in the house to catch up with, it might be admin, or you'll catch up with emails you need to send from a work perspective. It's respecting you and having that time, small amounts of time to find what you need.
Get that bit of control in. So, I mean, those are really, really useful tips generally for mothers. I'm going to come back just to the corporate mums, but if there are, for those who have stumbled across this through the magic of YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever you've found this, what are the first steps that mums can take, particularly these corporate mums who are just like, oh my gosh, I am corporate lawyer, I don't know, equity manager, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I want to be a mum and I got all this stuff going on in my head is going to explode. and I feel so sad and weepy. Um, what can they do? Uh, Some basic takeaways.
Okay, three basic takeaways. The first one is really reconnect with your values. I've alluded to this the whole of this conversation, but you change when you become a mum. So many women don't actually know their own values and they're not living by them. And if that's the case, they are often living by values of other people or society, and therefore, they are not feeling fulfilled. They're inner critic. They're feeling very negative all the time. They're angry, frustrated, etc. As soon as you start recognizing and reconnecting with what's fundamentally important, you can prioritize better, you can make better decisions, you can decide how you spend your time better, and this is both work and at home. It is so important to identify that. And that's generally where I start with most women I work with is, do you know your values? In 2 minutes, you talk about your life and I can pick them up. You can very easily, when you're attuned to listening for them, you can tune into what the values of a person are quite quickly. The second one, we've talked about pressure over the conversation. There is something here around being kind to yourself. Don't put all the pressure on you to be everything to everyone all the time, or to make these drastic big changes straight away because it's a new year or because you're returning to work after mat leave. These things take time, but as long as you chip away at them every week and you move forward and you have a win here or a win there and you accept that win and you celebrate it, then you will make headway. So I think, yes, definitely, if you need a hot cup of tea for 5 minutes, that's what you need. You need to be able to say, that's okay. I can sit down for 5 minutes. I don't need to go all the time. And then I guess the third one is recognizing what's in your control and what's out of your control. I often talk to people who are frustrated and angry about something that actually fundamentally is out of their control. What's the point of wasting that energy on, an issue that you cannot control? If you can control things, then yes, make sure you do as best you can. And if it hasn't quite gone to plan, it's about like, okay, why didn't that go to plan, and doing it differently next time and learning from
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Again, putting the pressure up, but learning and saying, okay, you know, this could have been better. I spoke to a client recently who, does not want to work at all in front of her children, having just gone back to mat leave. She'll work in the evening. She won't work during it. Doesn't not want to work, if she's got a toddler with her. And, she picked up her laptop because she had to do something. It was
oh, grumpy. You're all right. You're all right. Keep going.
wasn't urgent. Sorry, this thing was urgent, and she picked up her laptop and she did it. She felt so guilty and frustrated that she had broken something that was a real deep promise to herself. She was 2 weeks back after mat leave. She's got to get into this new, routine, her new rhythm, what works for her. She's got to be kind to herself when that happens. And yeah, okay, that perhaps was a little bit in her control, but it's like, okay, what have I learnt? What am I going to do differently? And take that attitude forward rather than dwelling on everything that goes wrong. And a lot of time that's out of your
Yeah,
control.
yeah. I think it's the learning, it's the seeing. Oh, failure is too big a word. But
Yeah.
when the schmozzle hits the fan, it's that okay. Woo.
Mhm. Yeah.
What can I learn from it? What,
Mhm.
how am I gonna grow from this? What are the benefits rather than, "Oh, I messed up again," and going into that spiral. I think, yeah, that's a really important element of it. I mean, that's also something that comes out throughout your website actually, and the when you're talking is this idea of constant learning in life, in work, always being open and curious. And then
Mhm.
I think that immediately means you do feel much more in control because you'll go, well, there has to be a solution somewhere. I can't imagine it at the moment, but
Mhm.
it'll be there somewhere. That immediately lightens things, and it means you're already watching for and listening for other ways of doing things. And that's yeah,
You continue to grow as a
yeah,
woman, and I think that's important in all of this. We are mothers, but we are, as I say, individuals too, and we need to grow and do what
yeah,
we need to do with people as
yeah,
well.
we do. Well, I'm looking forward to becoming the Anne Widdecombe one day. Gonna be awesome. Catherine,
Wait.
Catherine, where can people find you and follow you? All the things if they want to get in touch and come to one of your masterclasses. So
Oh, thanks. Well, thank you, Zoe, for having me for a start. My website is thriveinmotherhood.co.uk. And I'm on Instagram at thrive_in_motherhood. And you will see me populating things about my masterclasses, my workshops, all of that on Instagram. And there's loads of tools and techniques and strategies and stuff to overcome some of the problems we're talking about and challenges on there too.
great, fantastic. I'll put links in the show notes below. And yes, I just want to say thank you very much to everyone who's been listening and watching. Please like, share with relevant mummies or anyone else you think would be interested, and do subscribe, because then it helps the algorithm push this out and get it out to more women and mothers who need to hear this. So thank you so much. Catherine, thank you. Have a lovely day.
So, thanks, Zoe. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, stopping. Love the podcast and want to help keep the kettle on? You can support the show. Think of it like buying me a cup of tea or helping cover the cost of the biscuits. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for keeping this kitchen conversation going.